Okay, well, I've been scratching out very little so far on a pad, and all I've really done is this is a very rare occasion that I'm writing something down on a smaller pad, and I haven't even drawn a sketch. I have only drawn a shape on one end. Hope that shows up okay. Anyway, that's more or less the shape that I want. It's not quite in the right proportions on this piece of paper or on this pad, which is why, you know, I'm changing it as I put it to here. I don't want to draw the perfect sketch and then mark it off in grids and then try to, you know, translate it over into a large canvas here. So, but what I know I do want is the idea of, you know, that's like a shopping mall. Well, we'll have an anchor store. In this case, it's not the draw with a bunch of small stores with it, you know. In this case, it's the anchor store, but it doesn't. That's not where most of your attention is going to be. It really just serves to help frame in our picture. It's going to be a painting of looking through the woods. Again, getting in the direction of an autumn scene. So the temptation is, okay, I'll have some big trees here, some big trunks here, and we'll have some big trunks here to balance it out. That's a bad idea. The nature of this anchor will have to be different than the nature of this anchor. You know, it could just open right up to a distant view over a lake. Then the lake itself would have to serve as an anchor. So it would have to be painted in a certain way to provide a strong, without drawing too much attention to it, to still provide a strong anchorage visually. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not going to go in with a great deal of perspective in this. You're not going to be able to see any great distance. It's really, I think, so far going to be about looking in through a forest. So it's possible that I do some small evergreens. I need different shapes and different light on this side than I do here. It's within this area that we'll have our focal point and our more greater areas of interest. So very slowly, I'm just pecking away at things here. And I've taken a stick to put in a few branches, or rather, shall we say, broken branches. You know, it needs variety. Oops, my piece of charcoal is getting very small and sloppy here. I don't like that. Excuse me. I'm going to toss that. And I'm going to wipe that out. And wipe that out. And give it the flick. And wiping that one out. I want the strong one to be here. So that's all I'm doing. Sorry, my camera got a little bit bumped, I guess. Okay, anyway. Okay, now, this is sort of going to be, this tree's going to be one organism, really. So I have to be a little bit careful with my branches. I don't want it to appear as though, I want it to appear, these trunks to appear as though they're, you know, same distance from our eyes. So I don't really want to have foliage, too much foliage poking out the back. And I need to be fairly strong with with these branches here. Something like that. Those are the ones hanging over the front. We'll also want something, of course, coming out the back part of the canopy here. And maybe let's see, maybe a bit of a straggler here, something along those lines. I know it lines up with this branch. Okay, I think I'm going to change that a little bit there. How about if we intersect it? How about if we intersect it right there? We have it on this side of the trunk. Okay, that serves to break up a long, thin trunk. Seems to do a pretty good job. Still not thrilled with it. Still too push that branch behind the tree a little bit. Still don't like it. Okay, that might be a better solution, or it might lead to a better solution anyway. This trunk is thick enough, it's going to have enough interest. I don't think I need to break in front of it anywhere. I think that's okay. But I think what I'd like to do is show maybe a bit of bush here. And then maybe in the distance we have, not too great a distance, but maybe we have one other trunk here. You know, maybe even a dead one. Something. Right? So we're already kind of getting perspective. Here to there, to there, to there. Developing these different planes. Okay. Okay, that is kind of a reasonable start. There, this little blob of foliage might be a part of this bush. Might just be a part of this bush and behind those trunks. Okay. Let's see here. Just to confuse things a little more. Okay, maybe we'll just stop playing up there for the moment. One thing, this as well, I think. I like that a little better. I don't want it too choppy here in the corner. Not with these dark, strong lines. The lines in front of these rocks will likely be broken up a little bit because there's probably going to be some grass or something breaking them. But we're not going to worry about that right now. Okay, now I'm going to have a little sit and start to push our way that way. Well, in itself I like this, but as a whole I don't. So it's going. And I think what I'll do is put that tree trunk behind that bush. So this tree will end up being a separate tree, not part of this one. And it'll be pushed back a little bit. I think I like that better. Again, for what I have in mind as the whole, I think that this may end up drawing too much attention to the foreground. How shall I give that bush a little bit of depth? I cut across in front of that trunk a little bit. Just a little. Yeah, I'll leave it like that. I'll leave it like that for the moment. Yeah. See, I'm really kind of picking this area and trying to hone it to almost exactly where I want the basic structures, the basic form, how I want to divide my space. And then I'll move on. I know that often I'll draw large lines and roughly place things in place, but this time I'm not doing that. Too cowardly today. I thought I'd bumped my camera, but I didn't. It's because I keep moving the canvas up and down depending on whether I'm working on the bottom or the top of it. That's why it's going off screen a little bit. Anyway, I'm not going to worry about it. I've had a little set. I think I'd like to make this area in the most foreground area. How about if we were to come across with something like this? I even like that little bit of rock in there. And this dip here is kind of central. Not worried about it. It's not going to be a hugely important part by the time things are drawn in. But what if again, we have some large pieces of bedrock showing there. I might be doing this in a bad way and it might need to change, but I'm just putting them in. Not too heavy, just a bit light. Just to give a bit of a feeling. Okay. Well, that's a no. Okay, that's it for the moment. Now, we have our right-hand side of the cradle, right? This is it. What I mentioned earlier about maybe some younger evergreens, I think I'm going to do that. They're going to be close, but they're going to be solid. They're going to wield a fair bit of strength, but they won't distract from the focal area. They'll just provide the left-hand side of the cradle. So we need to keep that kind of interesting. Now I'm going to be standing right in front of you if I leave the camera there. So maybe what I'll do, move the camera over a little bit. Yeah, that's still in frame. Just make sure I don't trip over the legs here. Now these don't have to be huge. I'm putting very little pressure on the charcoal. See, we have a little bit of trunk showing at the bottom. Who knows? Let's have another one. Let's have another one. Top goes in the opposite direction. Maybe a bit of trunk showing there. Who knows? I don't know why I even bother with that for the moment. So that's a couple. They're young, they're a little closer. Should we do another bit here? Third one, just behind that one. Okay. Might be a little bit in, might be a little bit close, might be a little not quite detailed enough. And it might be that I'm worrying too much about it right now. So let's go with the last one. Now, let's go the canvas a little bit. I like to look dead on, you know. Looking down a little bit suits me fine. Looking up, I'm not quite as fond of. So that's the beauty of the adjustability, isn't it? So it's been said by much wiser people than I that before you begin, or when you begin, a sketch, certainly for a painting, your first decision is, one of your first decisions should be, which direction is your light coming from? My feeling on this painting is that it will come from upper left to behind my shoulder, coming from you more or less, from your direction. So that means, but also actually one more thing, I would like to keep these trees, this foreground, probably most of this foreground going up these trunks, I'd like to keep that in the shade. So if the light's coming from behind me and from the left, then we're going to pretend that there are a whole bank of trees behind us. We're standing in the darker forest and we're looking out towards an area down here there's a bit of clearing and it's catching the colors in the forest down here. Now, that's my thinking so far as to how it's going to go. So we're coming, we've got sort of our cradle being built here. without knowing where I'm going to place other trees, there are a couple of things that I would like to decide for myself, just an aim. I know that we have this strength here. I know that I don't want this corner to be important. So let's just cut a diagonal line across there very lightly and say, okay, we know we're going to tone everything down beyond that line. Now, I would like a general feel or a general movement in the painting that I will roughly follow. It might represent the tops of trees or a certain indicated or suggested line of clumps of foliage. It might be a line of different types of trees. It's not going to be a strong line. But if we have this strength doing this, I could repeat with another line doing this. Very light, you probably can't even see it on camera. And that might be a line of different types of bits of foliage, just giving the painting a bit of flow, a bit of music, a bit of rhythm. Or I could take and make a line like this. And inside this line, there would be more color. So on one hand, I'm having more color over here with the line doing this. You know, the line across, the lighter space is down here. Now that the line's doing this, we have the lighter space down here. So far, I think I like this idea. And I may have an exception or two of light, you know, somewhere. Don't know. Not too worried about it. That just gives me a feel. It's just a feel. They're not lines of any objects that I'm going to draw necessarily, but I may draw in my objects to loosely replicate this line. You know, there may be some foliage here. You know, and right now it can look like a cloud for all that goes. You know, there may be some foliage that goes like that. But see how the bottom of each of these clumps of foliage loosely follow that line? And if you can do that, you'll end up with a bit of suggested movement in the painting that's not necessarily immediately noticeable to the viewer. But if you can imbue that into the design, it does help. It's just kind of a, I don't know, puts music on the canvas, I suppose, if you're successful. So I don't know, you know, this is something you can do or don't do it. You know, it's entirely up to you, of course. It's just a thought that I sometimes employ with some of my paintings, or some of my drawings rather. What I do know is that if I were to continue with some foliage disappearing behind this, what appears to be a bit of a knoll now, then it's almost as though you would have a screen so in your face, so close, that it wouldn't lend to looking further into the forest. So I'd like to set myself up for being able to look further into the forest. So I'm just going to lay in, and it's not necessarily a line that's going to stay, but another plane from which trees can come, or what have you, and yet a further away one again as well. Just so we step off into the distance a little bit, you know, and maybe even something up here. I don't know yet. And I'm not worrying about the 1 inch, you know, to 2 inches, to 4 inches, to 8 inch kind of thing. I'm not worried about that right now because we're looking into the forest. We're not looking over a wheat field or a body of water. So anyway, I'm just gonna take those off of there because I don't even know if they're in the right place. And I'm going to do away with that too. Now I've wiped them off. I don't think you can see them on camera anymore. Certainly they're very light. So even though I wipe them off, there's still enough there for me to use if I want. Now I'll start playing in this area, putting a few trees in, and that's for tomorrow or later. See ya. Thanks for watching.